Good evening, I'm Victoria Sheehan. Thanks for joining us tonight. Police are on the lookout for an ambulance they say was stolen from a hospital in Birmingham. Authorities say a Haynes ambulance was taken from UAB Hospital about 8 p.m. yesterday. It was parked on an emergency room ramp at the time. Police are asking you to call 911 if you see a Haynes ambulance that's marked with the unit number 206. Now here is a picture of the ambulance. A notice says it has an Alabama license plate that begins with the number 29, which represents Elmore County. Well, court records show Tuscaloosa County grand jurors have indicted 4 former University of Alabama football players in a pair of holdups earlier this year. The grand jury returned robbery indictments against Brent Callaway, Tyler Hayes, DJ Petway, and Eddie Williams. Callaway and Williams also are indicted on multiple counts of fraudulent use of credit or debit cards. Records show the 4 were arrested in February after Hayes, Petway, and Williams allegedly mugged 2 Alabama students in separate incidents in Tuscaloosa. All 4 were kicked off the football team and they're no longer enrolled in school. A judge set an arraignment hearing for June 6th. The attorney for a man accused of mailing rice and lace letters to the president and Republican Senator Roger Wicker says federal authorities have little evidence linking her client to the crime. Christy McCoy said after a court hearing Friday that the government has offered no evidence to prove her client, Paul Kevin Curtis, had possession of any ricin. FBI agent Brandon M. Grant testified during the hearing that he could not say if investigators had found ricin at Curtis's home. So far, Curtis is the primary focus for investigators and the only person arrested in connection with sending those letters and a third threatening letter mailed to a judge. Well, looking around the state today, the Alabama legislature is moving on to the final stretch of the 2013 regular session. Lawmakers plan to work 8 more days till the session ends. The priority is working on budgets. The state education budget has already passed the House and the Senate has passed the general fund spending plan. House Speaker Mike Hubbard says he expects to begin work on the general fund budget in the full House on Tuesday. The education budget is expected to be approved by a Senate committee Tuesday and to be up in the full Senate by Thursday. Lawmakers must finish the session in 30 work days total. The director of Alabama State Parks, Greg Lyons, says the parks cannot depend on income from a proposed Gulfront resort for funding. His department is still figuring out where to get the money to upgrade and expand the system. In addition, some repairs and maintenance projects have been delayed or put on long-term hold. Among the options on the table for creating revenue is finding matching funds for a possible user fee on camping equipment and the sale of vehicle passes that would allow access to all parks. Officials from Alabama's Dauphin Island say it's still recovering 3 years after the BP oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. Mayor Jeff Collier says the town's economy has yet to come back to what it was before the spill. He says tourists have returned to the island, but the city is still waiting to settle spill-related claims with BP. But the island is not only battling the after effects of the spill, hurricanes have destroyed dozens of homes on the island, leaving empty lots where many homes used to be. Residents of West Texas came together this morning for a church service just days after the deadly fertilizer plant explosion. Members of St. Mary's of the Assumption Catholic Church remembered the 14 people who lost their lives Wednesday night in the blast. Some residents have been allowed to return to their homes or what's left of them, but authorities are enforcing a curfew from sunset to 7 a.m. Investigators are still working to determine the cause of the explosion. Now to the ongoing case of the Boston bombings. The surviving suspect, Jakar Zarnaya, remains under heavy police guard in a city hospital, and we're getting reports from a senior federal official this hour that Zarnaya is now communicating with FBI officials through writing. The news broke just under an hour ago, but here's the latest on the case that's building against him.
The world is waiting for answers from 19-year-old Jakar Zarnayev.
He's not in a condition to be interrogated at this point in time.
The sole surviving Boston bombing suspect remains hospitalized with a gunshot wound to his neck. A Justice Department official says he'll face federal terrorism and possibly state murder charges. Boston's police commissioner says there may have been more attacks if authorities hadn't stopped Zarnayev and his older brother, Tamerlan.
We have reason to believe, based upon the evidence that was found at that scene, the explosions, the explosive ordnance that was unexploded, and the firepower that they had, that they were going to attack other individuals.
In 2011, the FBI says it interviewed Tamerlan after Russian authorities alerted the U.S. government. The elder Tsarnaev then made a 6-month trip to Russia in 2012, but his exact whereabouts and activities are unclear.
The ball was dropped in one of two ways. The FBI missed a lot of things as one potential answer, or our laws do not allow the FBI to follow up in a sound, solid way.
Tamerlan's YouTube channel linked to a video featuring a well-known jihadist who was killed by Russian forces last December. There is no evidence Tamerlan was associated with any international jihadist groups.
You feel a little safer right now knowing that the ones that did it aren't here anymore. And now it's just about, trying to move on and put the pieces together and get ready for next year.
In Boston, life is slowly returning to normal. The site of the bombings is still a crime scene. Sunday workers tore down the last remnants of the marathon. Mayor Thomas Menino says the city has developed a 5-phase plan to reopen Boylston Street, which he says is now the most famous street in the world.
Now, people across the country are mourning the loss of the 3 victims in those bombings, and some in West Alabama are speaking out about the heroic acts of the Boston first responders. WVUA's Emily Forrester sat down with Tuscaloosa and Northport first responders as they reflected on this past week.
With flags still at half-mast across the country, first responders in West Alabama reflect on the Boston Marathon tragedy.
Knowing that they didn't hesitate, that they went in, trying to do the greater good for everyone. Very proud.
I'm glad that they were able to be right there, and be able to respond as fastly as they did.
Northport Fire Lieutenant John Poole says responding to any disaster always hits close to home.
It was very overwhelming. You just feel like that everything else seems irrelevant at that time. All your little problems with bill paying and that kind of thing just goes out the window, because you always see your child there. You always see your wife there, so my heart goes out to them.
North Star EMT Tiffany Soper says first responders in Boston were simply doing their job.
That's what we're there for, is to respond, show up on scene, do our job, and try to help others in a timely manner.
Both Poole and Soper say because of April 27, 2011, West Alabama first responders are stronger as a whole in the face of tragedy.
Going through the tornado, we all pulled together and we fought strong and did our job, so I think we do the same.
It's all about the team and trying to get the most people, the best care that they can have and a coordinated response.
Reporting in Tuscaloosa County, Emily Forrester.
They got a long road to recovery as well.
WVUA News.
Welcome back. Yesterday, a festival in Colorado served to be a very interesting historic event having to do with celebrating marijuana. Now you're about to see aerial views from an annual rally known as 420. This year drew a record crowd since Colorado legalized recreational marijuana use. Perhaps because of that, for the first time, Denver is hosting something called the Cannabis Cup. The competition is normally held in Amsterdam, but it has now made its first American appearance. And summer is on the way, and those temperatures are only going to get hotter over the next few months. And WVUA's Tommy Townsend joins us now. And Tommy, I understand that you have some money-saving tips to save money for those cooling bills.
Well, that's right, Tori. I visited an energy-efficient home on Kings Mountain Road today. The 5,000 square foot home uses less than $180 of utilities per month. The realtors attribute the Energy Star certified home's efficiency to the way it was built. It has a lot of insulation and air has nowhere to escape.
For sure, everything needs to be sealed. I mean, that's kind of what an airtight house is about. And what we do before we even put in the insulation, we use a product called EcoSeal, which it's called thermal bridging, and it's a product that kind of seals everything, and we do all of that, which keeps air from entering the house.
Now here are some things you can do to make your home more energy efficient. According to Energy Star, one thing you can do is insulate your walls and attic. That will help keep the cold air in and the hot air out. You don't need your AC running all the time. You can get a programmable thermostat which will shut off while you're out of the house and then turn on a few minutes before you come back. If you can cut down on the amount of sunlight that hits a house, it'll make it easier to cool. Shade trees and awnings of things of that nature can help with that. And finally, make sure your air conditioner is well maintained and be sure to change out those air filters and do it often.